Hi everyone. This is my first video stroke podcast episode. I hope you enjoy it, and I just wanted to say a massive thank you to Matt Luff for taking the time to speak to me and giving me some amazing answers. And yeah, just a big thanks to him, and I hope you enjoy. This year is 11 years of racing, if my maths are correct.
I think that's about right, yeah.
Are you bored yet?
I think it's a hard sport to get bored of. I think it's a sport you have the highest highs and the lowest lows. I think a lot you have 99% of the time it's a low, but when you get that 1% that's good, it makes the 99% worthwhile. So it's not sort of a case of getting bored. You're always working towards something. You always sort of you have a goal in mind. So I wouldn't say I'm bored just yet. I have my days, but yeah, no, it's all good. The guy at the circuit said like, "Oh look, like, you're not half bad at this. Why don't you come along for a tuition session, see what you think?" Went along to the tuition session in 2011, I think it was like mid 2011, and he said, "We've actually got a race league. If you want to join that, you can. It's every Sunday, every week. Just turn up, do your best." I thought, okay, I'll give it a go. And then 3 years later, I ended up winning my first world championship in karting in Paris, the Sodi World Series in 2015, and then went on to win it again a year later in 2016. And it kind of just snowballed from there. I think up until that point, I wasn't really taking it seriously. And then when you start doing things like that, it's like, okay, well, maybe I should not necessarily consider this to be a career, but take it sort of a bit more seriously and really put some effort into it. And it kind of just snowballed from there, really.
Cool. Okay. Was that by any chance Brentwood karting or Lakeside or
That was Brentman Casting,
Brentwood?
yes, in Worley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's actually
Uh,
funny that track's produced a lot of really good talent over the years, like a crazy amount
yeah.
of talent. Like a lot of like you got the Ben Green, Luciano
Mm,
Vachetta, a lot of
mm.
guys that are like seriously talented have come from that racetrack. Ayrton Simmons. So yeah, good starting point.
So obviously you mentioned racing in Paris. What was it like racing internationally at such a young age?
Well, to be honest, at that age, I don't think I fully understood sort of like the gravity of what I was doing. It didn't really register. I was kind of just it'd always been this like hobby that I had that I happened to be like half decent at. So I didn't really take it, like I said, I didn't really take it too seriously. And like when I
Yeah.
won the first world championship, I thought, okay, wow, I really do need to sort of put some effort into this. So I think it was, I mean, I don't want to say stressful because it wasn't. I
Mm,
wasn't taking it seriously, but I think I did understand that it was important and
yeah.
like we're putting a lot of money into this. Another thing we'll probably come on to soon is about sort of the
Mm,
budget side of motorsport.
yeah.
But yeah, like it was a bit daunting,
Mm,
but it was great to sort of race internationally and sort of put myself up against other people outside of the UK because at that moment in time I'd only really faced drivers in the UK. So you come against all the guys from like France and Russia and
yeah.
Belgium and all these fantastic talents. So it's good to expose myself to that at such an early stage. And it was interesting to see all the different standards of driving. Like for example, the guys from Dubai, they were incredible in the wet. They were so good in the wet, and it's because the sand gets blown onto the circuit in Dubai, and it becomes like an ice
Wow.
rink. It's so slippery. So they had this tremendous car control, and like you
Yeah.
come across all these different styles of driving. And I think it's good at such a young age to develop that and sort of be
Mm,
exposed to those different sort of talent aspects.
yeah. Oh wow. Okay, that's really interesting. I did a bit of research, and you've just finished a master's degree, if I'm correct.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's correct.
How did you balance studying for a bachelor's degree? Because I find myself like quite overwhelmed with it all already. So I can't even imagine how you like balanced all that and came out with a bachelor's and a master's degree.
Lots of stress. No, it's not as bad as you think. I think I'm sure as you know, there you have a lot of free time at uni. Like you really do have quite a lot of free time. So aside from going to the gym and doing my lectures and whatever studying I had to do, I did put a lot of time into either like competing or you're working towards getting a new sponsor on board or managing your current sponsors. I mean, I don't want to say training because racing isn't something necessarily you train for. I guess you do put the hours in here and there, but it's not like boxing or MMA where you have to like put hours in every week to keep
Yeah,
at it
yeah,
because
yeah.
it's so expensive to get on circuit. So it was difficult to manage those two things. I think the real thing that helped me the most is having the people around me that really support me. So
Mm,
my family, my friends, specifically my mum, like she put so much effort in helping me do the racing and sort of if I can't do something and it needs to be done, she'll do it. So I always know I've got that to kind of fall back on if I need to, which is really handy. I'm very fortunate to have that. So it's not as difficult as you might think, but it does take a lot of work and it does
yeah.
take a lot of discipline. And I think it's very easy in that situation to let one of the two things slip, either be it
Yeah.
university or motorsport. I think I did a fairly good job of managing it. But yeah, it can be difficult, it can be stressful, but if you plan ahead and you've got your mind in the right areas, I think it's definitely doable.
Cool. So you sort of touched on it earlier. Obviously, budgeting and trying to get sponsors in motorsport is a huge, huge thing. How did you go around that struggle and actually getting sponsors and, actually funding it financially?
Well, yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head there. I think it's no secret that motorsport is extremely expensive. And you see it, like, for example, you see it in Formula One. A lot of the guys like Stroll and Norris, they come from a lot of money, and I don't want to say they're only there because they're money. It's not the case. They're very, very talented, but it does
Yeah.
help to have that backing behind you.
Mhm,
Um,
100%.
it's it's tricky because you'll send off like you'll try all different tactics. You'll send off thousands of emails. You might get 50 replies, 10 will be what you want, and only maybe one or two will be serious, and you just repeat that process over and over again. Obviously, emails isn't the only way to approach sponsors. We've done all, honestly, you name it, we've done it to try and get sponsors, beg, still borrow. It's just, it is tricky, and if you can hit the easiest thing, to say the easiest, the best outcome is to get a sponsor on board early that really wants to see you grow in your career and have that one sort of unicorn sponsor that wants to back you through your whole career. That's the dream come true. Um, we've come across a couple that are close to that are sort of really, really into the race and they want to be involved, and they've backed us since 2017, 2018. So I'm very grateful to have those guys on board. But it is tricky without the sponsor. I see so much talent every single day. I see a new thing on Instagram saying, "Oh, this person's not racing this year because they haven't got the budget," and I'm just like, that driver deserves to be on the grid way more than a lot of the other drivers on the grid, and it's so unfair they don't get the opportunity. But the industry isn't going to change. But yeah, finding sponsors is tricky. But I think you've got to have that desire and that passion for motorsport to keep coming at it and keep approaching the sponsors. Because, like I said, especially got something like uni going as well, it's very easy to get sidetracked with one thing and let the other slip. So, provided you put the effort in and you approach the right people and you play it well, it's definitely doable. But yeah, it is a tricky sort of area to navigate.
This will be your third year racing with Area Motorsport. And considering your previous success with the team, do you have high hopes for this season with them, considering it's a new championship
Uh,
for you?
Yeah, I have very high hopes, very high hopes. I mean, we've been through all sorts of teams in motorsport. Since 2016 was when I joined my first team in karting, and we've been to 6 different teams since, I think, or 5 or 6 different teams. So we really have seen it all. Um, I I have not. I have every faith in Area Motorsport. I think they're absolutely fantastic, and I think we're going to have an amazing year. I think there's not a single person in that team that I don't fully trust with my life. Like there's this, you know, they exceed all expectations every single time. Um, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to this year. I mean, going off track history, we should be in a good spot. I mean, vice champion in 2021 and champion in 2022 in the Civic Cup, against some really, really talented drivers. So I mean, it's not a bad start to sort of my journey with Area Motorsport. So yeah, I'm very excited about doing the Audis with them this year. I know Rob, he puts in so much effort. He's almost OCD with the way he preps his cars. It's just absolutely immaculate. Everything is just perfect. And yeah, there's not another team that I think I'd want to run with. It's actually funny with the car. He was sort of running the car the other day, check it's all sort of working right, and he said like this is a good car. So we should be in a good space come into this season. And yeah, like I said, I have every faith in the team.
And how important is it to have that trust in the team?
It's massive. It's almost as important as sort of having the faith and the trust in yourself and having the ability in yourself. It's because you need both things to work properly. You could be a fantastic driver, and if you're in the wrong team or you're in the wrong car, suddenly it doesn't matter how good you are because you haven't got the tools to do the job. And likewise, you could put the worst driver in the best car, and they're not going to win because they haven't got the talent. So you need both of those things. You can't have one or the other. So when you get that good driver and that good car combined, that's when the results come and the stars align. And I think this year we have that.
So out of all the championships you've raced in, which would you say is the most competitive?
Oh, that is a very good question. So of all you know what, it changes every year. It's so
Yeah.
tricky because every single year drivers come, they go, and it's like you could argue, oh, well, it was more difficult this time, and it was easier this time. I think when you actually look at it, if you look at like the aggregate, every single year, those
Mhm.
championships improve. Every single year. Like even when you look back to the Civic Cup in 2020 before sort of me and Ali were sort of up the front, the
Mhm.
lap times they were doing were completely different to what we were doing. And even like in my last year in 2022 in Civic Cup, I was putting times in qualifying that were like ballistic, and I was like, "There's no one's going to beat that." And I look back on the timings this year, and someone's beating it. I was like, "How have they done that? Like, it's incredible." Every single year, these championships get better and better. So I think it's hard to say what championship's most competitive. I think at that moment in time, the most competitive championship I've been in is the Honda Civic Cup. I think the things Stuart Lyons is doing in that championship is absolutely tremendous. That and TCR, he's really creating a lot of buzz. He's really putting a lot of effort into it, and I think it's showing because it's generating a lot of attention. Um, so yeah, I would say Civic Cup is the most competitive so far. But saying that, I haven't been in the Audi TTs yet, so I don't know what it's going to be like. It's looking like it's going to be a fantastic grid, a fantastic year. Then again, you look back to Jet Juniors, and you think like 2017, I was going into a grid with 20 drivers that were arguably at the time some of the best in Europe, and like at that moment in time, that was so competitive. And like obviously, Janetta recently parted ways with Toka, and sort of arguably the talent's dropped. And there's all these different things you can throw. It's so subjective; it's hard to tell. But yeah, I think Civic Cup most competitive, and Audi TTs this year should give it a good run for its money.
And then finally, where do you want your racing to go? Like, say, where do you see yourself in 5 years or so?
Oh, I mean, the ultimate goal for me, I think, and it has been for a while now, is British touring cars.
That's
I think that's
a great championship.
especially it's a fantastic championship. It's got a lot of heritage. And sort of recently with my move to front wheel drive, I realised that I'm a bit of a front wheel drive merchant. I love the front wheel drive. I used to be I used Ginettas and Mazdas, and it was all
Yeah,
rear wheel
very
drive
well.
road tyre stuff. But now I've sort of switched to that front wheel drive floor plan, and I've really gelled with it well, and I really like it. So I wouldn't be opposed to sort of suddenly jumping in a rear wheel drive car. I think I can do both, but
Yeah.
I do want to stick down that front wheel drive route, and I think the natural progression from that is to keep going up to the touring car package. I think the natural move for me in the next maybe 2 years would be TCR UK. That would be like that's the goal right now. TCR UK or Mini Challenge. They're both as good as each other. But I think knowing what Stuart's doing in the championship and knowing how it runs, I would prefer to go to that TCR UK route. And then maybe in the future again British touring cars. But saying that, TCR UK right now is on a par with, if not better than, British touring cars. They're honestly the way that Stuart is running that championship is tremendous. So I wouldn't be opposed to sort of spending a lot of time in TCR UK if the right sponsor was to come along and was happy to fund it. That'd be fantastic. But yeah, the goal for me is 100% touring cars.